Under the covers. Tonight is like every other night. You lay there, in the dark and silence, alone, with no company other than your thoughts. You shift and roll throughout your bed, just you and your thoughts. You ponder, you plan, and you fantasize, anything to distract from the ringing silence that surrounds you. You hear a creak, a common sound to hear on such a still night, but you still recoil when the sound hits your ears. You hear this sound almost every night, but the sheer unexpectedness sets off a trigger in your head as paranoia takes over. The thoughts that once illuminated your mind are now darkened. What was once pleasure and success has now turned to demons and killers. The silence that your mind was distracting you from has now become the focus. You lay there, silent, listening for any obscure sound, hoping that the silence doesn't leave. Every little noise adds to your paranoia, and the silence lingers as you await the next unexpected occurrence. You're too afraid to open your eyes at the thought of seeing anything your mind can conjure. You lay there, alone, in fear. The fear builds in your mind as you try to find a quick escape from anything it creates. You revert to your childhood solution, hiding under the covers. You pull the blanket over your head and lay in silence. You hear noises, but they don't seem as scary. You figure if they can't see you, you're safe. The heat builds up under your blanket, but you put up with it simply for the comfort it supplies. You begin to calm down and relax, and revert back to your usual, logical self. It's just you and your thoughts again, alone, under your blanket. You think of how silly it was to get so scared and worked up over just a stupid little noise. Eyes closed, you lift the blanket off of your face as the built-up heat is released. You breathe a sigh of relief and roll over, only to hear a deep, grating voice whisper,
"There you are,"
as the sound of footsteps creeps toward your bed. I'm at your bedroom window. A warning for my fellow travelers. If you ever have a layover in Philly overnight, don't spend the night at the Economy Motel. And if you absolutely must, steer clear of room 103. I was heading south to visit some family members for a few weeks, and unfortunately, the only flight available included a 7-hour layover in Philadelphia. Not wanting to spend those hours huddled outside the airport, I rented the cheapest motel I could find and took the shuttle over at about 11 p.m. The place was just about the shadiest looking motel I'd ever seen. But it was a bed, right? I checked in and headed to my room, 103. Exhausted, I immediately collapsed on the bed. A bit lumpy, but not terrible. Not bothering to take my contacts out, I closed my eyes and let my thoughts wander. I was yanked back to reality by a loud grumbling from my stomach. Right, the airline hadn't fed us. Annoyed, I dug around in my bag for one of those microwavable soup cups, which I tossed in the room's microwave. As the microwave rattled away, I noticed a piece of paper wedged underneath it. I pulled it out and unfolded it. There were 2 words scribbled on it hastily. Don't look. Huh. Whatever. I tossed it aside and retrieved my soup cup. Feeling lonely, I hopped online to see if anyone was on. I was in luck. My long-distance boyfriend happened to be on Skype. I called him up and we chatted a while, trying to keep our voices down. Eventually, though, he said something that made me laugh, and I heard a muffled curse come from upstairs. Feeling guilty, I said my goodnights and ended the call, with the intention of getting a bit of rest before my next flight. As I lay in the now dark room, I noticed a thin stream of light coming from where the curtain didn't close completely. Annoyed, I got up to close it. I was almost at the window when I heard it.
I can see into your bedroom.
The voice sent a chill up my spine. It was very quiet and high-pitched, like a child's. It was so soft, I wasn't sure I hadn't just imagined it. I shook my head and reached for the curtain.
I know you can hear me. I'm at your bedroom window. I know you can hear me.
I jumped back as a shadow crossed the thin stream of light coming into my room. I definitely hadn't imagined it that time. There was a voice, directly outside the window. Someone was out there, looking in. I jumped back into bed and pulled the covers up to my chin.
I'm at your bedroom window. I know you can hear me. I can see in your bedroom. Are you listening to me? I know you can hear me. Come, take a look. I'm at your bedroom window.
The taunting went on and on, rattling into my thoughts and leaving me paralyzed in fear. Suddenly, I heard the tenant upstairs moving around again. Footsteps stomped over to the door above, and I heard muffled shouting.
Hey, shut up down there. This isn't funny. I have to work in 4 hours.
The door upstairs slammed, and there was silence. I breathed a sigh of relief and leaned back against the pillow, determined to get some sleep.
I'm still out here. Come look out your window.
I sat straight up, heart pounding in my ears. The voice was back. It whispered on and on, repeating its mantra over and over again. I put my hands over my ears and rocked back and forth, trying to block out the sound. It was no use. The longer I sat there, the louder it got, until I could hear it so clearly. It sounded like it was right next to me. Frantic, I picked up the phone and dialed the police. Stammering and stuttering in fright, I managed to give them the information. Where I was, what was wrong. Please help. I'm scared. I didn't care if it was a prank at this point. My mind was reeling in terror. The officers assured me they'd be over shortly to see what the issue was. I thanked them and hung up the phone. As soon as I did, silence descended over the room. It wasn't just that the voice stopped. No, utter silence filled the room. The air conditioner stopped. The street noises outside ceased. Even the faint hum of electricity from the TV and lights went away. It pressed in on my ears with a tangible heaviness that sent shivers through me. Next to me, my phone rang. The caller ID told me that it was the police station calling me back. Cautiously, I picked it up and answered. "Hello?" I whispered.
They aren't coming.
The voice growled, and every light went out, plunging the room into complete and total darkness. The Rotted Man. When I was a child of only 3, the Rotted Man came for me. Late one night from my open door, he slowly crept across the floor. He took me by the hand and said, "I'll save you from this life of dread." We left the house in the early morn and took his carriage of blackened thorn. We rode for hours through thick, dense fog to a darkened, unlit, swamp-filled bog, where topless trees with hanging moss were shields from the unseen winter frost. The thick, wet heat from the dense, cool air crept up your back and through your hair. He took me to his house of bones, on a path laid with cobblestones. Upon his door hung a head of a child with hair of fiery red. His hall was bathed in blood-red tile. The walls were stacks of flesh in piles. He told me of his protective view and begged that I should join him too. He smiled, and through his rotted lips, I saw 1,000 children's fingertips. He promised me the world would pay, and told me that I could stay. Then we entered a smaller room, and the rotted man gave me a red balloon. Then I saw my mom through tinted glass. The man with her was talking fast. The tears were pouring from her eyes. The man then held her while she cried. Then the rotted man did the strangest thing. He sat down with me and began to sing a soft, nice tune that filled my head with puppy dogs and fresh baked bread. It was then I noticed that the rotted man was simply old and had a tan. And then my mom burst in the room, the feel of warmth, her sweet perfume. She hugged me tight and swore to me, from here on out, Dad would let us be. No more bruises, no more fights, no more screaming in the night. The rotted man had saved our lives by taking those who beat their wives, and children that cry when they're dropped and are beaten senseless until they stop. I thank the rotted man a lot, and never have I forgot that the thing I feared saved my life. They had found my father with a knife. There are real horrors on this earth. Some are subjected to them at birth. We were saved by a man made of rot. I was lucky, but many are not.